All right, so we're really diving deep this time. Derik War Chisora, you guys sent in a ton on his career. I mean, everything. Early days, latest fights, the works.
Yeah.
And it's clear you're fascinated by him, by his whole story, but especially all the comebacks.
Oh, absolutely.
But you want more than just the surface level, right?
Yeah.
You want to understand what makes him tick, why he fights the way he does.
Hmm.
What makes this deep dive so interesting is that Chisora, he really isn't your typical boxer.
Yeah, his story, it's a real roller coaster.
Mhm.
Ups and downs, controversies, you name it. To really get him, you got to see the whole picture, not just the highlight reel.
Exactly. So rewind with me for a sec. Back to the beginning. Zimbabwe, born there, then the UK as a teen, doesn't even lace up the gloves till he's 19. Can you imagine?
Mhm.
19. Most guys, they're practically veterans by then. What's the deal with that late start?
It's pretty rare, right? Most boxers, they're practically born with gloves on. But Chisora, he flies through the amateur ranks, even wins the ABA super heavyweight title in '06.
Wow.
And get this, that same year, some young kid named Anthony Joshua walks into Finchley ABC. Same gym where Chisora trained. Talk about a talent factory.
Can you imagine those sparring sessions?
Oh, man.
Two heavyweight titans going at it back in the day. Okay, so '07, he goes pro, starts racking up the wins. But then
How about that?
the ear bite? Paul Butlin. That's a tough one to shake.
Yeah, that was a dark moment for sure.
Yeah.
Got him a 4-month suspension. Really cemented that image of Chisora as this, untamed force.
Mm-hmm.
But to be fair, he has owned up to it. Even
Yeah.
said he regrets some of the stuff he's done.
Right.
It wasn't just a hot-headed move. It had consequences.
Yeah, it's like this intensity, right? For better or worse, it's always been there.
Totally. It's what fuels those crazy knockdown, drag-out fights everyone remembers. But it's also led to some, let's say, distractions.
Yeah.
Overshadowed some of his accomplishments in the ring,
Yeah.
And you can't talk about Chisora without talking about that David Haye press conference. 2012.
Oh, man, the how's your toe heard round the world. Talk about a moment. Things escalated quickly.
Quickly is an understatement. It was right after the Klitschko fight, which, by the way, he went the distance with Klitschko. 12 rounds. Most guys couldn't do that to Klitschko back then.
Even in defeat.
Yeah.
There's this, wow, this guy's got guts factor.
Totally. But yeah, so back to the press conference. Chisora, still fired up from the fight, taunts Haye about this toe injury. And suddenly, it's chaos. Furniture flipping, punches thrown, the whole thing spills out into the media. Wild. The British Boxing Board of Control, they had to get involved. Suspended his license right then and there.
And that whole mess, that's what leads to their fight a few months later, right? Couldn't even get licensed in the UK.
Yep. Luxembourg Boxing Federation ended up sanctioning it because nobody else would touch it.
Wow.
It was during that whole thing that Chisora starts using the war nickname. Like a shift, right? From Del Boy to all-out intensity.
Interesting. Like he's leaning into it. But how much of it is calculated, do you think? Was the Del Boy thing ever real?
Well, there's a strategy to it, no doubt. Gets people talking, builds up those rivalries, sells tickets. But it also makes him a target. Easy for the trash talk.
So showman, yeah, but is there more to it?
There's always more than meets the eye with Chisora. Warrior in the ring, for sure, but outside of it, he's actually pretty down to earth. Funny even in interviews, which, by the way, that's where things get even more interesting. His politics.
Yeah, like you said, always more than meets the eye with this guy. Brexit, Boris Johnson, not exactly what you picture when you think global boxing star.
Right. Really makes you think. Shows you he's not afraid to speak his mind.
Yeah.
Even if it ruffles some feathers. And you got to remember, his life, it spans 2 worlds. Zimbabwe, the UK, that's going to give you a unique perspective. You can even see it in his opponents.
Oh, yeah. How so?
Think about it. Finland, Bulgaria, Germany, Poland, Ukraine. The guy's fought everywhere. A truly global fighter.
And speaking of global stage, you can't forget those 2 world title shots. Klitschko, then Fury last year, must have been career highlights.
Absolutely defining moments. Those fights, especially the Klitschko one, they showed a different side to Chisora. This wasn't just brawling. He was strategic. We're talking about a master technician, a true champ, and Chisora went toe-to-toe with him for 12 rounds. Didn't just survive, he made Klitschko work for it. That earns respect no matter what the scorecards say.
And on the topic of going toe-to-toe, gotta mention those Dillian White fights. 2 times they went at it, and man, those were wars. Brutal. But that first one, 2016, now that was a wild night.
Complete slugfest, both of them just letting it fly from the first bell. White got the decision, but even that was controversial. The scoring, then the pre-fight stuff, throwing the table at the press conference, it all added fuel to the fire.
Hold on, Chisora threw a table at White. Seriously, what is this, round 2 of the Hay press conference, just with furniture instead of fists?
Just added to the drama.
Yeah.
You know? But it goes back to that intensity. He lives for that edge, even if it means bending the rules a bit. The rematch, 2018, just as intense. Could feel the bad blood, both guys determined to settle it.
It's crazy though, right? Because then you hear about Chisora, the family man, the businessman, even dips his toes into politics. How do you reconcile that with the guy trying to take White's head off in the ring? It's like two different people.
It's a contradiction, that's for sure. But he said it himself. Boxing is his job. It's what he does, not who he is.
Yeah.
That separation is something a lot of athletes struggle with, but he seems to manage it.
So War Chisora when the bell rings, and then just Derik, the businessman, the dad, when the spotlight's off. Do you think that's part of the appeal, that unpredictability?
I think so, yeah. It makes him relatable, even if it's in a weird way. Here's a guy, he's achieved incredible things, but he's not afraid to just be himself, flaws and all. And there's something about that, about someone who goes after what they want, that relentlessly, even if they don't always play by the rules, it's compelling.
And you got to admire the grit, right? All
Yeah.
these years, the ups, the downs, the controversies, he's still here, still fighting at the top level. That's dedication.
It's remarkable. Think about it. He shared the ring with some of the best heavyweights of his era, and he didn't just show up. He brought it to them. Maybe he didn't win those fights, but he made them earn it, every single one.
And now he's got David Hay in his corner. Old rivals, now their manager and fighter. Another layer to this whole thing.
It's a story for the ages. An unlikely duo, but, it seems to be working. Hay knows what it takes, and he sees something in Chisora, something that goes beyond just winning and losing. Whether that translates into another title shot, well, that's the big question mark.
Yeah, another title shot, long shot maybe. But, that's Chisora, always defying the odds.
Right. Never count him out. The guy's made a career of it. Think about it. Klitschko, Fury, Usyk, shared the ring with all of them. And he didn't just roll over, he fought them.
He brought it.
Exactly. Didn't always get the win, but he made them earn it every time.
And now with Hay, right, I mean, that in itself is crazy. From rivals to manager and fighter, who would have thought?
One for the history books, that's for sure. Total curveball. But it seems to be working, doesn't it? Hey, he gets what it takes to get to the top, and he sees something in Chisora. Something more than just wins and losses. Whether it'll be enough for another title shot, well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is. But speaking of Chisora and what it takes, let's talk about his future. Coming off a win, looking good against Washington. But where does he go from here?
The big question. He's hinted at retirement, hasn't he? But you can tell he's not done yet. Still got that fire. And the Joyce rematch coming up. A chance to rewrite history after that 2022 fight.
Joyce is no joke. Is there really a path to redemption there? Or is he chasing ghosts?
Well, like we said, that's Chisora, always surprising us. He's built a career on defying expectations. This is a guy who's gone toe-to-toe with the best, hasn't he? And he didn't back down. He might not have all the belts, but he's earned his place, that's for sure.
He has, and win or lose, you always know you're going to get a show with Chisora, a true warrior.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's his legacy, isn't it? He may not have the prettiest record, but he never backs down.
Yeah.
Leaves it all out there, every single time.
That fighting spirit, that refusal to quit, that's what resonates with people, It's bigger than any one win or loss. It makes you think, right, does that spirit, that heart, does that define his legacy more than anything else?
Makes you think.
It's been a wild ride with Chisora, hasn't it? The highs, the lows, all of it. And one thing's for sure, there's more to come. We'll be here, ready to dive back in when that bell rings for the next chapter in the Derik War Chisora saga.